if you really want to, hold off until early next year. I think is when they're probably going to be coming out with their ARM-based MacBooks. That's going to be really interesting to see how those go. I mean, those could blow these Intels out of the water. I don't know, because
They do. They blow the Intels out of the water. I hope he held off on buying the old one.
a lot of people would probably agree that it's been quite a long while since Apple did something truly innovative. In fact, maybe not even since Steve Jobs died have they done anything truly innovative on that level. I mean, I think back over the years, you think since 2010, what did they really do? I mean, I think the iPhone was the last truly innovative thing. I mean, I guess you could, the next closest thing may be the Apple Watch, which is definitely a great product. Definitely kind of got the wearables market and smartwatches surging as a product category after that. But I mean, it's such a niche market. A lot of people don't like watches and or just aren't going to wear a wearable, so it doesn't reach that many people. And also, there were a ton of smartwatches before the Apple Watch. It wasn't really, the first at all at anything. So you think, what truly innovative have they done? I don't think that happened since the iPhone. That is, until now. Apple has finally done it. They've finally innovated again by means of this guy here, the 2020 M1 MacBook Air. Now, obviously, this is here it is against a early 2020 Intel MacBook Air with a quad-core i7. The innovation is not in terms of the design, because the design is exactly the same. The redesign of the MacBook Air, that's not rumored to come until maybe 2022, although we should be getting a redesigned Pro in a few months here. But yeah, the design is not where the innovation is. It's all what's on the inside, that M1 chip that makes the world of difference. And at this point, I know you've probably watched like 100 different videos on the M1 MacBook Air, so I'm not going to go into painstaking detail. The point has already been proven. It's good. It's really, really good. And I'm just here to say that, yeah, that's absolutely true. It's the case. It's not just hype. It really is good. I mean, compared to this Intel MacBook Air from not even a year ago, like 9 months ago, oh my God, it's on a whole nother level. I mean, and I went all out on this. If you watched my video from back in April when this was new, I went all out on this. I got the quad-core i7, the highest end. That was a significant upcharge too to go to that one. I also got 16 gigs of RAM, maxed out the memory. Whereas this guy here is the absolute ace of base model for $999. You get the 256 gig SSD. You get the 7-core GPU, so that one less core GPU, and you only get 8 gigs of RAM. So I went with the ultimate, stock experience. And even still, as many other reviewers have showed at this point, even if you go with the $999 model, it still kills anything Intel. Even though this is the spec'd out Intel, it does not matter. It does not matter. And that has been a huge point of debate. Should I get the base model Air? Do I have to worry about, a lot of people have been worried about RAM. Do I need 16 gigs RAM, or is 8 enough? And I think of it this way. The MacBook Air is now kind of like buying an iPad or an iPhone. Like when you buy an iPad or an iPhone, you don't think about, oh gee, what kind of processor should I get in my, iPad? Should it have, does it have enough RAM? Is it going to be fast enough? No, you never think that. You just know you're going to buy the iPad and it's going to work. That stuff on paper, time and time again, how much more, there's Android phones and tablets that have, way more RAM than Apple products do. But time and time again, we see that these Apple products still perform wonderfully and usually way outperform the Android ones in a lot of cases. So, I think it's more, with the M1 chip, the Apple Silicon, it's that unified memory and more tightly integrated with everything, with the OS. So I think the RAM management is kind of more like an iOS device now. So I really don't think you got to worry about it. I think if you are someone like me that went all out on this in an Intel MacBook Air, because I had to compensate. I had to compensate for the fact that the thermal design was really bad in the Intel. I had to compensate for, the processor being, relatively weak. So I wanted to get 16 gigs of RAM to try to, at least have something to say that I'm getting a higher end computer. You don't have to worry about that in the M1. It's going to perform amazingly well. Now, of course, I did not want to put a ton of money into this because I know that when the completely redesigned Macs come out, either the Pros or if I wait for the redesigned Air, those are going to be so breathtakingly awesome that I feel like I'm really gonna want to upgrade to one of those. So I don't want to dump a ton of money into this. Now, if I were keeping this for years and years and years, a lot of people do with Macs because they usually last. If I wanted to go all out, I would say that 16 gigs of RAM probably would not be a bad idea. I would recommend 16 gigs of RAM if you want to keep this for a really long time, or if you're doing video editing, that sort of stuff, photo editing, like every day. If this is more of a professional device for you. I will say that, 16 gigs of RAM is great for future proofing. But if if you just don't, want to spend that much, it is expensive, a $200 upcharge. If you don't want to spend the extra money on the RAM, if you don't want to, if you might not be keeping this for a super long time, or even if you are, if you just don't want to spend the money, if you think you might not need it, then don't worry about it. I mean, it's still going to be a super fast machine. It's going to destroy the Intel models, even if the Intel models had 16 gigs of RAM, the M1s with 8 are going to destroy it. So, like I said, if you can afford it, do it. It's always a great way to, future-proof your products by having more memory. But if you can't do it, you're not going to hate it with 8 gigs of RAM. Believe me, you're not. It performs wonderfully. A lot of people have been saying that 8 gigs of RAM in an M1 is equivalent to like 16 gigs of RAM in an Intel. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, but still, it performs wonderfully. I think for most people, you really don't have to worry about that. I'd say just go with take it as it comes for $9.99. You're gonna love it. Like I said, more like an iPad or iPhone now in that regard. But yeah, future proofing, yeah, sure, go ahead, get the 16 gigs of RAM. Now the extra GPU core, I don't know. I kind of don't think that's worth it. I would kind of hold off on that and just pay the $200 for the RAM. Now, of course, storage, that's up to you. If you need more storage than 256, well, then you just do. So if you're the kind of person that fills up your hard drive, then you'll probably want that. But otherwise, 989 base model, it's fantastic. It's going to kill the Intel, believe me. Even though it's a MacBook Air, if you were a MacBook Pro user, especially like a 13-inch Pro user from even a couple years ago, if you have a couple-year-old MacBook Pro, especially like the 2017 dual-core model with the elongated escape key and no touch bar, oh my God, this kills that. So even though this is an Air and that was a Pro, if you have a Pro from a couple years ago, I think you could very easily get away with an Air now. The wonderful, fanless design. Don't have to worry about, loud blowing noises when you're trying to do your Zoom meeting. I think I'm loving the fanless design, by the way. I'm absolutely loving not having to hear a fan. Even without a fan, it hardly, it does get warm when you push it, but not like scaldingly hot in my experience. But you don't have to deal with any of that annoying fan noise. That's what I love about this fanless MacBook Air. I think that's one advantage over even the new M1 Pros, which from what I hear, the fans aren't super loud in those, but still, if fan noise is something that makes you anxious, you don't want to ever hear that, then you're going to love this new Air. And like I said, it does great even without one. Really, really impressive.
And just in case you care, you can pause the video here if you want and look at the Geekbench results from Geekbench 5. I compared the M1 Mac against the early 2020 Mac, and also threw in a Dell Precision workstation grade laptop just for fun from a couple years ago, and the M1 wins in every category. And I was surprised. I thought at least the Dell Precision with a dedicated graphics card would at least win in graphics, but nope, it doesn't. The M1 beats all these both other devices out in every category. So, yep, definitely impressive.
Okay, so now let's do a little test with OBS, video recording software here. So here I am on the early 2020 Intel MacBook Air. Now remember, this is the quad-core Intel i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. This is the Intel model from earlier this year. And I do have OBS open right now, and I'm sure you can hear that. We do have the fans running pretty loudly. Okay, we haven't even started recording yet. We're just setting things up. So just to show you my setup here, I'm doing a screen recording of the screen, and I also added a little overlay here of a from a webcam here, my Logitech StreamCam USB Type-C webcam here. And I was recording in 1080p 60. Our friend Darth Vader back there will be the subject here of the video. So as you can see, my video capture device is that webcam, and then I am using native resolution of that. I'm doing 1080p 60 FPS. And then the screen itself, I'm also recording that at native resolution. (2560 by 1600) and 60 FPS on that one as well. So I'm not scaling anything down here. I'm doing everything at native resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and start a recording of this. Okay. Hello, I am Darth Vader. I am your instructor. Let's type some things in text edit here. Waiting for text edit to open. Oh, I think I have to do this. Oh no, it comes up. See, new document. A little laggy there. Luke, I am your father. Okay, not too bad. Let's go ahead and open up some video here. Here's a 4K video. Let's play that back while I'm recording everything. Is it still going? Try to skip ahead a little bit here. My roller coaster. That's not too smooth. It's not very smooth on that, oh boy. All right, let's just look at some movement on the camera here to see how it's handling the 60 FPS of my video feed there. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop this torture test here. OBS. I'm going to stop that recording. I clicked that a few seconds ago. It's still in the process of stopping the recording. You can see our CPU usage is 76%, 75%. It's been like 30 seconds after I clicked that. It's still not done stopping the recording there. 72% CPU usage. There we go. Oh, it stopped. I don't know why I clicked that twice. Okay, let's play back that video that we recorded here. Type some things in text edit here. Just watch a little bit of this. Waiting for text edit to open. Oh, I think I have to do this. Oh no, it comes up. So that was definitely laggy. A little laggy there. Skip ahead. To where we had that video. Definitely lost a lot of frames there. Skip ahead a little bit here. That's not too smooth. It's not very smooth on that, oh boy. All right. Let's just look at some movement on the camera here to see how it's handling the 60 FPS of my video feed there. Yeah, it's not smooth at all. I was moving my hand out in and out very quickly. Yeah, it did not handle that well at all. So obviously, on this old MacBook Air, yeah, that was that's absolute torture test. It was maxing out the CPU, like 80% usage. Yeah, definitely you would have to realistically do that kind of thing on here. You would have to really tone down the resolution on everything, not be able to use native resolution. It was just way too much for this old system. But let's test it on the new M1 system. Okay, we are now on the late 2020 M1. Same setup here. Got our test subject Darth Vader there on the webcam. Settings are the same. So my screen recording is, of course, native resolution to the Mac, 2560 by 1600, 60 FPS. Video capture from the webcam. That is also still 1080p, 60 FPS. All right, so let's go ahead and start this. And of course, the Intel Mac, the fan was loud even when we were just sitting here setting things up. And of course, it's absolutely silent on this guy because there is no fan at all. So let's go ahead and start the recording in OBS here. See how it goes. All right, so we are recording. Okay, let's open some text edit. Oops. Text edit, there we go. That opened a lot faster than it did on the Intel Mac. Luke, I am your father. Okay. Let's get some movement in the camera here. The Intel one did not do well at all with that. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, let's go here. Let's play back this video. It was like a slideshow on the Intel. Can already tell it's much smoother on here. It's still in 4K 60. And it's looking perfect. I don't see a single dropped frame. Stark contrast from the Intel Mac. Skip ahead here. Still looks smooth. All right, let's pull back OBS. So what is our CPU usage? 34%. At this point in the Intel Mac, we were like approaching 80% CPU usage. We're at 31% here. Wow, a lot less demanding on this CPU. And I'll go ahead and I'll stop this recording. That stopped immediately, unlike the Intel one that took forever. And I should also note, this OBS on here is not running natively. This is an Intel app. So this is being emulated, translated through Rosetta. So this isn't even native. And the performance is astronomically better than it was native on the Intel Mac. Let's go ahead and watch back some of that recording that we just made. All right, so let's watch this back here. So we are recording the M1 Mac. There we go. Buttery smooth. It was a lot faster than it did on the Intel Mac. Okay. Super smooth. Let's get some movement in the camera here. Pay attention to that. The Intel one did not do well at all with that. Not a single drop frame. Buttery smooth. Perfect. Wow, that was completely undoable on the Intel Mac. Let's go here. Let's play back this video. It was like a slideshow on the Intel. Of course, that was totally smooth when I played it back. Not a single drop frame. Okay, so that result should not be surprising. Absolutely night and day difference in OBS here. If you're into this sort of thing where you're screen recording, maybe make instructional videos where there's a little square of you talking and then you're showing what's on your screen, or if you're a streamer and you do that sort of thing. Definitely not very doable on the Intel Mac unless you're willing to make the resolution way low on everything. It won't look very nice and crisp at all. This M1 here, no problem. You could use native resolution of the camera, native resolution of the of your computer screen, and even play a 4K video back while you're doing it without any stuttering, any drops at all. And it really doesn't even tax the CPU that much at all. Wow, that is really impressive. And of course, this machine has half the RAM as that Intel machine did that I tested, only 8 gigs instead of 16. So yeah, there you have it. Absolutely night and day difference. The M1 is just so much better.
And if we're talking about the performance per dollar ratio, that's something that Macs were never really great with. A lot of times Windows laptops, for the money, you would get better performance. Yeah, in a lot of cases, Macs might have the more premium materials or better design or whatever. But usually, performance per dollar wasn't great. But that is kind of changing things now with the M1. So let's just do a little comparison here. So these are two very comparable devices. Here's the XPS 13. Great laptop, beautiful, sleek design. In fact, I like the design maybe a little bit better than the MacBook Air. I just love that edge-to-edge screen. It's so nice. But here's the XPS 13 against the new MacBook Air that I have here. Both are $999 laptops. So let's compare what you get for $999 with each of these. So both of these, you get 256 gig SSD, and both you do get 8 gigs of RAM soldered on that cannot be upgraded. So those are two similar things. Both have 13-inch screens on them. Now, you do get that really nice bezel-less screen on the XPS. Not quite as immersive and bezel-less on the Mac, but keep in mind, the screen for this price on the XPS is only 1080p. At $999, you only get it in the full HD option. You would have to upgrade, pay extra to get the, either 1080p touch or the 4K display. That's a few $100s extra. There's just one screen on the MacBook Air. You don't have to pay extra for the better screen. You get like the 2560 by 1600. That's about 2K. Really nice resolution. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You get more resolution for your money out of the screen, even though the bezels might not be as nice. You get more pixels there for your money. Also, Intel UHD graphics, we all know that that's not anything to write home about. With the GPU built into M1, that's going to blow that out of the water. And of course, the processor, an i3. Yeah, we all know an Intel i3 is pretty meh. M1 is just going to blow that out of the water. So all of a sudden, two laptops that are both $999, comparable. They're both kind of like more premium, ultrabooks. Both very thin and light and sleek and nice. Both have 256 gigs of storage, 8 gigs of RAM. But the Mac has the advantages of the way better processor for the money, way better graphics for the money, and also higher resolution screen. So all of a sudden, for $999, the more bang for your buck is actually looking to be the Mac. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. I love the design of the XPS. It's a great laptop. It's not going to be, it's not like it's going to be super unusually slow or anything. For basic, everyday tasks, it's going to be great. But still, the bang for your buck, it's definitely going to Apple now for $999.
Now, I know pretty much all the reviews on these have been all rainbows and butterflies. Obviously, there's a lot of good reason to hype these new M1s up. But, of course, they're not perfect. There are some issues. I'll just go down the list. First of all, the thing that I found is, like I said, the design is virtually unchanged, except for a very minor change to the keyboards. So if you look on the, let's start on the Intel one here. So, first of all, function keys. Intel, M1. See that little globe icon? So it's got the little, if you press that, a little emoji / character map thing now. So, yeah, that's a little change. Do we need a dedicated emoji key? I don't know. Maybe you like that, but that's just one thing to keep in mind, the function keys. Now, function, if you double tapped on function, that used to start dictation. Now, dictation is a dedicated button. F5 will do dictation. But that brings me into one thing I don't like on these new M1s is, look on the Intel here. F5 and F6, that was keyboard brightness up and down. You no longer have that on the M1. So now to adjust keyboard brightness on the M1, you actually have to go up into Control Center here, which is a new feature of Big Sur. It is nice, but you got to go through here and do that and then do that. Yeah, I still like to have a dedicated key. I think it's just easier to just, tap, tap, tap up and down. And that's one of the reasons why I like having the function room instead of a touch bar, because a touch bar you would sometimes have to like go through tap a couple times to go into the right menu on the touch bar and then adjust it. But now it's, you don't have that anymore. So I kind of don't like that. A lot of times at night I'll be watching a movie or something in a dark room and I want an immersive experience. I want to turn my keyboard brightness all the way off. So now I have to go through there and do it. Not a huge thing, but a little annoyance. Also, that brings me into the other changes. F4. For years, that opened the app launcher, Launchpad. You can see F4 on this key here is mapped to do that. You no longer can do that with F4 now. So you just have to either do the little gesture to open it up or just click on the Launchpad right from the dock. But yeah, I don't know. Once again, I don't know how many people use that, but I did. I liked having the Launchpad there. So that's just one little thing. So these keyboard changes, I guess they thought it was more important to add like a dedicated spotlight key, dictation key, and do not disturb. I kind of don't think so. I don't really care about that. I like the other functions better, but whatever. Hey, it's not a huge deal. Definitely not a deal breaker at all. As far as anything else, I will say compatibility. That might be a bigger issue with some. Now, of course, the Rosetta has been wonderful. It's been amazing how it can emulate some things. But you will run into some issues maybe. Now, if you're someone who uses not a lot of third-party software, I doubt you'll have a problem. But if you are someone that uses a lot of third-party software, you might encounter something that does not work quite well being emulated with Rosetta. I found that Logitech Capture, which is webcam software for a Logitech webcam, that actually would not start at all. You would open it, it would crash immediately every single time. So that does not work at all on M1 Macs. And I'm sure there's a lot of other little apps here and there, especially lesser known apps that might have some issues. Now, of course, in time, most of these will probably be fixed. In time, there will probably be M1 versions written for it that you won't have to worry about that. But just keep that in mind. If you do use a lot of proprietary software, that's something you might want to look into is before you go out and buy an M1, research it and make sure that that does indeed work without issues on M1 Macs before you go out and buy it. That's something to keep in mind. And the only other thing I would say that might be a downside to these is one of the hyped features was iPad and iPhone app compatibility to be able to run those apps on the Mac. But as of right now, in the very end of 2020, that feature is kind of underwhelming still on the M1 Macs. First of all, for the apps that do exist, there's a lot of glitches with them, a lot of weirdness. You can't really make them full screen. The controls are kind of being translated from being touch to being, from a trackpad and keyboard. So kind of weirdness there, a lot of clicking and dragging that just doesn't feel too natural, and just random glitches, like things being cut off on the screen. And the other side is a lot of apps just aren't there. Now, of course, in time, a lot probably will be there, but also I think it is up to the developers, and some developers like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, none of those are on M1 Macs at the time I'm recording this video and through the App Store. So a lot of the developers might not want their apps to be available on computers. They might only want them to be available on phones. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're really excited about using all your iPad and iPhone apps right away on day one on your Mac, you might want to temper your expectations because they're probably not all going to be there and they may not work quite right. So, yeah, and that's really the only true downsides I could think about with this device, other than the design not being changed. But that'll come in time. And also one small one that a lot of people might not care about if you don't use this feature, but Boot Camp. No way to natively run Windows on these. So if that was something that was important to you, just remember you can't Boot Camp Windows 10 on these. You should be able to use virtualization software, hypervisors like Parallels. I know at least for Linux that works. I think I heard of people already getting Windows to work through a VM. I don't think that's officially supported yet. I think that's still something that has to be worked out between Apple and Microsoft, but I believe that will be coming officially at some point to be able to virtually run Windows on a Mac. But as far as Boot Camp through native running it natively. I don't think that's going to be coming, or at least not anytime soon. So that's just something to keep in mind if that was something that was important to you. But other than those few things, that's pretty much the only downsides I could really think of for the new M1 MacBook Air.
Okay, so the entire video, besides this little last section here, I exported that as a project in iMovie in 4K on both this new M1 MacBook Air and the old early 2020 Intel i7 MacBook Air. And here are the results. And yeah, they speak for themselves. The new M1 MacBook Air took just about half as long to export. Wow, just wow. That is an absolutely significant difference. Cutting the export time in half, that is crazy. I mean, just look at this. I mean, look at the price I paid. It almost makes me sick to see how much I paid not that long ago for the i7, and this one's so much cheaper because I just got the base model, and it kills the old i7 for hundreds less. And I mean, just the performance speaks for itself. Man, I tell you, these new M1 MacBook Airs, they are the laptop to beat right now. The M1s are absolutely redefining what a quote-unquote entry-level laptop is supposed to be. And I would absolutely recommend for $9.99, pick one up. You're going to love it.